Joining me for Trending Now is Daisy Cousens, a Sky News contributor with her own video channel on YouTube. Daisy, global warming. It's looking more and more like a religion, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, Andrew. And look, it has for a while, but the difference is that a few years ago, they used to kind of try to hide that that's what it was turning into. I remember in 2018, 2019, you had the school strike for climate change and Greta Thunberg running around like some sort of messianic priestess that nobody was allowed to criticize. Lest ye be smoked. It was very, very, emphatic that way. But they were all still going on about the science, and it was the science, and the scientific experts agree, and the science is settled and all of that. So they tried to make it sort of look legit. But you fast forward to from 2020 onwards, and they're using this sort of weird paganistic language like Mother Earth and Mother Nature. You know, we saw Prince Charles actually said similar in an interview with the BBC. He said, Mother Earth is our sustainer, for heaven's sake. And then you have Nancy Pelosi as well. It is so weird, Andrew. And the hilarious thing about Nancy doing this, Andrew, is that she reminds me of one of those end-of-the-world doomsday cult leaders who tells all their followers that the world is going to end on an exact date, and because of that, they have to give said cult leader all of their money, all of their life savings to form some sort of end-of-the-world contingency plan, because if they don't, they'll be left stuck on planet Earth, subject to the forces of the rapture, and that's why it's all justified, spending $500 billion to protect Mother Earth. But I will tell you what, Andrew, Nancy Pelosi, as we know, is a Catholic. Now, Andrew, I went to Catholic school, and I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure that worship of false gods is frowned upon in Catholicism, so perhaps Nancy Pelosi should take stock of her position, because it's not very appropriate for an open Catholic, let me assure you.
No, Moses had a lot to say about that, I have to say. He was very cross. It's weird. I just wonder how it worked in the past, a few child sacrifices to, placate the rain gods. Oh, it still didn't rain. Well, we must sacrifice even more kids. How did they do it in the past? Because the same is happening here. Yeah, we've been cutting for 20 years, 30 years, and you think... the climate's still apparently going to hell in a handbasket if you listen to them. And what we're told is you've got to cut even more. I mean, when does it stop?
I know, well, I don't know where it does stop, because they've been making sort of wrong predictions about this for years. As you've said, Andrew, I mean, it goes back to sort of the 70s when they were predicting killer bees were going to sort of overtake the Earth. And there was a prediction, I think, famously in the 80s that the, polar ice caps were all going to be gone by the year 2000. You had Al Gore in 2008 saying that the polar ice caps would have melted by 2013. I mean, on and on and on they go with these sort of outlandish doomsday predictions that people take very seriously, Andrew, and cough up huge amounts of money to help rectify, and then one by one they don't come true. I mean, our own Great Barrier Reef, for goodness sake, is the biggest example of that. 10 years ago, people were saying, oh, it's gone to hell in a handbasket. Now it's thriving, and yet we hear nothing about it. So I don't know where it stops, Andrew, but it'd be interesting to see if they actually got something right, what that would lead to.
Well, 10 years ago, they've been saying the Great Barrier Reef is dying about every month for every year until just the other day when the Great Barrier Reef had record coral cover.
Yes.
One thing trending on social media this week was an astonishing agreement signed by the city of Minneapolis in the US, signed with teachers, agreeing that non-white workers would be laid off last, even if white workers are more senior. Can that really be true?
Well, look, it appears so, Andrew, and this is very serious and very alarming. I think this was really, really big on social media this week. As you say, it's a new labour agreement in Minneapolis that is supposed to protect what they call underrepresented groups within the teaching staff, so, non-white teachers. But, Andrew, I was unaware that the colour of one's skin is what made you a good or a bad teacher. I mean, that's all very new to me, but that appears to be what the attitude is in Minneapolis. But the really alarming thing about it, Andrew, is that it's arguably unlawful. I mean, John Butcher of the Heritage Foundation has pointed out that it actually violates the equal protections part of the American Constitution, and it also violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which says that you can't discriminate, in terms of employment, etc., based on race. So there's things about it that are distinctly shonky legally, and yet they're pushing this through, this very racist agreement, sort of no questions asked with a full-throated defence. And my worry is, Andrew, where does it go from here? We warned like 4 years ago that this kind of stuff was the logical conclusion of radical identity politics. I never really, I couldn't envision this actually happening. I thought surely they wouldn't go there. But here we are in 2022, so the worry is, which other cities and states are going to adopt this? Where do we go from here?